particularly with the oil or with the economic questions also. So it is a whole process, but certainly we can recognize now that we are living under the laws of Dhimmitude, because there is a blasphemy law which forbids the criticism of anything which is Islamic, which is Muslim politics, and this is done under terror. And therefore, this is the blasphemy law is very important, and it is applied in several Islamic countries, nearly in all Islamic countries, and we apply it here
now
Europe.
Increasingly in Europe. Yes, we're speaking once again with Bat Yor. She is an author of 8 extraordinarily important works, including most recently, and we're going to be talking more with Bat Yor throughout the hour about Europe, globalization, and the coming Universal Caliphate. And I guess just to finish up this point very quickly, Bat Yor, on blasphemy as an instrument of enforcing Dhimmitude. As you say, some of your friends and colleagues in Europe have been subjected to prosecution in accordance with what amounts to the European Union's application of blasphemy laws. We were delighted to see one of them, Geert Wilders of the Netherlands, being found not guilty of blasphemy. Does that allay in any way your concerns about the trend?
Yes, there is a trend, because also, you see, there is the continuous pressure of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, the OIC, on the European government and probably also in America, which ask the European governments to enforce very severe law punishing Islamophobia. Now, from blasphemy, we are going to Islamophobia. We don't know what is Islamophobia. It is not expressed. But it is also the refusal of immigration, of especially illegal immigration, the refusal of accepting the introduction of Sharia law into Europe, or halal meat and so on, or the burqa, because it is it is also insecurity. It is insecure. You don't know to whom you have.
Hold the thought, Bat Yor. You've given us a rich diet there of things to be focused on. We'll visit with you more about all of it in a moment. Stay tuned for more with Bat Yor, authors of Europe, Globalization, and the Coming Universal Caliphate. We'll be explaining it all momentarily. We're back, joined, I am very pleased to say, by a personal hero of mine, a woman who I think has done as much to shape public awareness of a real, present, and growing danger, not just in Europe, where she resides, but also worldwide. She is the authoress of Eurabia, the Euro-Arab Axis, among many other books, that was published in 2005, and most recently, and the subject of our talk today, her very recent book, just off the presses, as a matter of fact, Europe, Globalization, and the Coming Universal Caliphate. Bat Yor, thank you again for giving us so much of your time. Before the break, you were discussing several other ways in which Europe in particular, and I think probably increasingly the United States as well, are being subjected to the dictates of Dhimmitude, all backed by terrorism. But you were mentioning, those who are resisting immigration, illegal immigration included, those who are resisting the insinuation of Sharia, those who are opposing, the universal application of halal standards to meat and other products, as examples of people who are being castigated as Islamophobes.
Yes, but also on the cultural level, for instance, now the teaching of jihad, as it was done, based on objective criteria, is abandoned, and it is replaced by the Islamic view of jihad, which is a just war. So this is it is a whole
or personal struggle, vision. Depending on who's talking about it.
Yes, it is
how great the disinformation is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Batyor, let me ask you this. You speak about a caliphate, and I think we need to define our terms there as well for our audience here at Secure Freedom Radio. We've discussed it on many occasions, but it's rarely with somebody who's as authoritative as you are. Give us the sense of what you mean, or what you are referring to is the meaning of the caliphate, according to those who adhere to Sharia.
Well, the caliphate in the past, it was abolished by Kemal Atatürk. It was
in Turkey.
Yes, in Turkey. It was in 1924. It represents the body that control the military, the religious, and the legal institutions in the whole Ummah. For the whole Ummah, this is the universal Muslim community. So now there is a lot of discussion in the Muslim world about the restoration of the caliphate, and but what type of caliphate? So will it go back to the former its former form, institution, or how? Because now we are in 21st century, and in fact the OIC seems to be the principal body that would represent this caliphate. In fact, it claims it represents the whole Ummah, the whole Muslim community, world Muslim community. I must say that not all Muslims conformed to the vision of the OIC. Many Muslims in Europe are at the forefront of the fight against the Islamization of the West. So it is not only a European fight. It is also Muslims who are totally integrated and want to fight for the European values, for the Western universal values of freedom and dignity of man.
Yeah, Batyor, it's very encouraging to hear you say that there are many Muslims in Europe who are demonstrating that kind of commitment. I confess we have looked long and hard for them in the United States, and there are some who are demonstrating it. I believe there are more who are sympathetic to the view that Sharia must not be allowed to come to the United States, but who are not able, or for whatever reason willing at least, to step forward and help combat it. Are you actually seeing significant numbers of Muslims participating publicly in the efforts to resist this kind of creeping Sharia or the imposition of Dhimmitude through whichever of these means?
Yes, there are some organizations, and they are very courageous because there are real targets, and they are more in danger than the European because they are considered as apostate and traitors. So many maybe would come out and would speak if they were encouraged, but it is very dangerous because, of course, they have to think about the consequence upon their family. It is not an easy fight. It is very dangerous.
Do you find in Europe, as we do here, that matters are made worse by governments reaching out to the wrong Muslims rather than empowering the ones you're describing as part of the solution? At least that's the way I think of it. Instead, they're reaching out to the Muslim Brotherhood or its front organizations who have the imposition of this Sharia program as an essential, and the Caliphate for that matter, as an essential part of their program.
Yes, the governments are doing that out of Dhimmitude because they are afraid, because they cannot fight terrorism. And therefore, those groups are the powerful ones, as you have seen in Egypt, and they will control the Arab Spring. And in doing so, in reaching to these people, the European governments are betraying the values they pretend to uphold when they speak about protecting freedom and rights of men and so on, because in fact under Sharia law this is not, there is of course the Declaration of Human Rights under Islam, but this is not the same as what us we think of human rights. It is different.
Yes. And in fact, I guess that's one of the things that's been most insidious about this group, the Organization of the Islamic Conference. They used to call themselves now Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC in both cases. They are, in fact, we're seeing, I think, increasingly a determination on their part to mislead us as to their true purpose, but to impose it just the same, and to do it through, as we were discussing, through these sorts of organizations that make no bones about their desire to bring Sharia to in this case, the United States and to Europe as well. Let me ask you this. In terms of the organization of the Islamic Conference, how, if it aspires, in fact, to become the new caliphate, how far along would you estimate it is in successfully dominating the Muslim world and becoming the definitive interlocutor with the non-Muslim world?
Well, it's what it wanted is to unify the Muslim world, because, as you know, the different countries of the Muslim world were created by colonialism. They represent also the former division before Islamization of these countries. There were the Christian countries, different Christian countries, but then they became the lands of the Ummah, and they form of the Caliphate. They form one entity. So more or less, because there were always war between the different regions. But the OIC wants first to unify the Islamic. This is in its constitution, to unify the Islamic world and to root it in Sharia, in the Quran, in the Sunnah. This is the words of and act of the Prophet, Islamic jurisprudence, and in order to give it a unity of destiny and a political unity.
Okay. Mathieu, we have to pause for just a moment. We're going to come back with the author of Europe, Globalization, and the Coming Universal Caliphate for our last segment with Bat-Yor. We're back, joined once again by the inimitable Bat-Yor. She has a new book, which I strongly commend to you, Europe, Globalization, and the Coming Universal Caliphate. You should also consider required reading her other 7 books on variations on these very important themes, each of which has stood the test of time as insightful as clarion calls, warnings, really, of what is afoot. And but in coming to our the immediate topic at hand, your new book, you make a very strong case that our organization is being, our civilization rather, is being undermined by a kind of, well, I think of it as a red-green axis. Leftists, particularly of the transnationalist, postmodernist, multiculturalist character, globalizers, all words that you address at length in the book, are working hand in glove with Islamists to tear down Western civilization. And I'd like to just get you to address the vital importance of maintaining our national character and sovereignty in the face of these sorts of pressures to resisting the ultimate imposition of Sharia.
Yes, well, first of all, the European Union is the driving force against the national interest or national history, because it grew up out of the destruction of the European nations. So this is one point. The other is that the left have seen with the embourgeoisement of the working class, it has become weaker, and especially with the destruction of the Soviet Union. So it has looked for other allies, and the allies were, of course, the immigrants. And there was therefore this alliance with the Muslim and other immigrants, but the Muslims are the more numerous. They count by millions.